Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting of June 14th to order. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and you may be seated. Okay, I am going to go to item 1.2, which is the adoption of the agenda. I need a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved by Teresa, second by
I'll second it.
Faith.
Adele?
Adele, excuse me. To approve the adoption of the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We will now go on to item 2.1, which is the board report. This item provides the opportunity for each governing board member to report briefly on the items such as site visits, governmental relations, conferences, and meetings attended. Do any of my fellow board members have anything to report?
Yes, last week I attended the ASBA Summer Leadership Institute. It was an all-day virtual meeting with many breakouts, and they mentioned more than once and had a breakout on social emotional learning, and it was very affirming to me, and it really validated a lot of the things that Dwayne has said and Susie has said about things that our campuses are doing and are planning to do for next year. So it told me that we're already on the right track in that regard.
Thank you, Faith. We will now go on to item 2.2, which is the superintendent's 2.2.1, school board meetings update by Mr. Sheldon.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I'm happy to report that our district plans to open board meetings to the public for in-person attendance moving forward. Our technology department is working on a permanent solution to broadcast meetings going forward if the board chooses to do so. To be clear, both formats, excuse me, a little frog in my throat. To be clear, both formats, in-person and remote, comply with Arizona open meeting law. And remote broadcasts of our meetings are a complete unedited account of the meeting. So there's everything that's said in the meeting is captured on the video and put out to the public. We look forward to replacing our bulky temporary equipment with permanently mounted unobtrusive equipment, which can be used for multiple purposes above and beyond broadcast meetings. Mr. Shepard and I today were just doing a little brainstorming on all the different ways we could use that equipment here in the boardroom above and beyond just the broadcasting of meetings, whether it's through professional development opportunities, other virtual meetings and so on, and kind of a hybrid combination. So I'm just in summary, I'm pleased to report that that moving forward after today, we will be opening our meetings to in-person attendance. If anyone has any questions or comments, I'd be happy to field them.
So is that saying August would be our first?
Our next regular meeting is August 9th.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do we as a board need to vote on that today?
I do not believe so,
Okay.
no. In fact, in articles I've read, it sounds like some boards have actually changed their minds, modified their approach to a meeting, even sometimes just hours before the meeting. So
Okay.
my understanding is that the board does not need to vote on this, although certainly would be an option if you as board members chose to make it, to formalize it.
And as long as we have the equipment, we still have an option that perhaps a board member's out of town and can join remotely?
Yes, that's a great example. Many times there's a reason why a given board member needs to be out of town for a meeting, and this would be a chance, even if it weren't publicly broadcast meeting, it would be a chance for that board member to attend remotely and fully participate in the meeting.
Great.
Well, please let Mr. Farr know we appreciate all the work he's going to be doing to upgrade the equipment so it is safe, because that, the board is, of utmost importance is that everybody's safe, that nobody's gonna trip over wires, and I know that's been a big hiccup with all of us, because we're all very careful with the meetings that are being held presently. We make sure to step over the wires, and we won't have that option with more people coming in, and safety is always a plus. Okay, we will go on to item 2.2.2, which is donations recognition. Mr. Sheldon?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, even though school's been out for a couple weeks, we still have some donations rolling in, which is good news. Castle Dome Middle School received a donation for $500 from the Center for the Future of Arizona. C.W. McGraw teachers are getting busy on the Donors Choose, probably planning for next year. There was Mrs. Grimaldo's kindergarten classroom received a donation of $911, also $311, so she's been very busy. And Mrs. White's classroom will receive materials and supplies in the value of $1,277 through Donors Choose. Dorothy Hall also has 2 Donors Choose projects that have been funded. One for Mrs. Newell's first grade class project in the amount of $532, and another for Miss Newell's first grade class project for $412. Carver Elementary School received a donation from the 625 Foundation, a donation in naming the school library the private Delgado Reading Room. The donation has an estimated value of $5,000. And Carver also received a donation from the Benevity Community Impact Fund to be used at the principal's discretion in the amount of $513. And Otondo received 2 gift cards from Wheezy's valuing $50. Palmcroft received a donation from Lowe's for $120. And also Palmcroft received a Donors Choose funded project materials and supplies in the value of $843.39. So this month, our generous community contributed $10,470.21, bringing our our year-end total to $176,248.99. And as part of our consent agenda, our board will be able to accept those donations with a great big thank you to our generous community. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sheldon.
I have a question, just general. Donors Choose. Is that teacher motivated? They go to Donors Choose?
Yes, the teachers initiate it. The teachers, they have a project that they want to do with their class, and then they put a description of that project and a list of supplies and materials that would be needed to do the project in their class. And then people can go onto the website and they can contribute toward that. So maybe one person might want to fund the entire thing, or maybe 10 different people will fund a portion of it.
Is the principal aware that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Our
Just so for
CFO has,
duplication efforts not being done.
our CFO has gone through the protocols for our
Perfect.
people. And
Okay.
this is, there's a number of crowdsource sites out there. This one's the safest and most reliable for classroom teachers from what we know.
Karen, we also receive reports on a regular basis that tells us what our teachers are putting out there on Donors Choose.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is this on the high end of donations for the year?
For our annual donations, yes.
Okay.
In fact, I remember just a few short years ago, we were happy, we we've cracked $100,000 mark for a year. So yeah, we've been, and I think the Donors Choose really has elevated our totals because it's people see what our teachers are doing in class and they're happy to support it. Mhm.
Very good.
Okay, we are now going to move on to item 3, which is information items. We're going to go to item 3.1, which is enrollment reports. Mrs. Valenzuela?
Thank you, Madam President, governing board members. Our 180th day report reflects a decrease of 354 students compared to last year. As we have reported before, we've made some positive progress since we returned to in-person learning, and we've seen an increase of 196 students. So that is positive, and hopefully that continues to trend in the new year.
Thank you very much. Yes, it was good to see that our numbers are up.
Increase.
Yes, increasing. Okay, we are going to go on to item 3.2, which is district financial trends. And again, it's Elizabeth.
Madam President, governing board members, year to date, our district has spent 69% of our maintenance and operation budget and 74% of our capital budget. I just want to remind the board that districts have until the end of August to process any payments for the current fiscal year. So we will not have a final ending balance until that occurs, which we usually present at the annual financial report presentation.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other additional questions for Elizabeth? Okay, we will go on to item 3.3, which is energy savings performance report. Elizabeth?
Hi, Madam President, governing board members. I would like to welcome Tyler Gertman, who is the Regional Manager for Climate Tech, who will present a summary of phases 1 through 5. Tyler?
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. Madam President, governing board, superintendent staff, thank you for your time. Wanted to share my screen and I'll go through a brief presentation showing the successful savings track record that that you've accomplished, in partnering with Climate Tech. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Second here. So as Elizabeth mentioned, we've worked with the district for 12 years, implementing 5 phases of work successfully with the staff. Primarily a lot of the infrastructure work, and you'll see a snapshot here of each phase, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, through phase 5, and the different work that we've done. But typically, most of it is around heating, cooling, ventilation, bringing in proper outside air, also improving the units by putting in energy efficient units, building automation systems, which controls your heating and cooling systems, looking at lighting and LED lighting, and other infrastructure renewal type projects that the district wanted to accomplish over the years. In total, the total infrastructure improvements are $10.3 million that have been invested into your existing schools over the last 12 years with Climate Tech. And the total life cycle savings that is projected is $10.6 million through 2032. And so life cycle savings is the savings over the life of the equipment. So for heating, cooling, most of these measures, it's about 15 years per industry standards. And some of the measures actually go out to about 20 years, like your central heating and cooling units. And just for your knowledge, Arizona statute states that the savings has to exceed the total infrastructure improvement value. So, good news here is out of the 10.6 million that was projected, the district's really making a lot of headway. They're at 7.1 million to date in terms of dollar savings on your budget right now. That's about 160% of projected savings. So in Climate Tech, working with staff, projecting the savings, you're at 60% more savings accomplished. And that's through working together with your team. We have a measurement and verification agreement that we work together with your director of facilities and the facilities team really to drive those savings as much as possible. Most of our districts are around 125%. Your district is near 160% in projected savings. So great job there, and multiple years ahead of schedule in terms of receiving that savings. So this is an example of from your baseline period to the current year, or actually last calendar year, and really the reduction in consumption that you see here month to month. I think the next chart is actually gives you a better example of really the avoided costs that the district has achieved through these 5 phases. Looking at the avoided costs from starting in 2009 when measures were starting to be implemented, the red is a line of which the district, that would be the cost that you would have paid if the district didn't implement these types of projects purely on an electrical consumption standpoint, so paying APS. So the district each year is saving that difference between the red line and the blue line, which is your current utility consumption to date. So obviously a large difference between these lines and helping your budget and putting more money back into the classroom. For example, Castle Dome, before we started working on Castle Dome, which was phase 1, they were at $350 a square foot, which is extremely high. And we were able to help the district get it down to about $1.75, so about 50% savings just on that one site alone. So not only are the financial benefits of these programs come to light for the district, but also helping you move forward with your sustainability efforts. Annually, these projects are taking approximately 800 cars off the road and preserving about 5,200 acres of U.S. forest. So not only is it the financial savings for the district and its budget and putting more money back into the students and the classrooms and staff, but also in terms of improving the overall environment. And with that, that's it in terms of the high-level summary that we wanted to give and share with you folks. And we look forward to working with the district in terms of a phase 6 whenever the time is right for the district. Any questions, any comments, any feedback?
Thank you so much for that that report. We very informative, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, we are going to go on to item 3.4, which is the transportation update. Mr. Shepherd will provide that.
All right, well, is this on? Hello? No,
No, you just have to press.
what do I do? Okay, good evening, Madam President, board members. Thank you very much for having me here this afternoon. So I'm here to give you I guess I would say the annual transportation update report. So next slide, please. All right, so at transportation, our mission statement is to safely and efficiently transport passengers where they need to be, when they need to be there. The other thing that I think is probably a good segue to add to that for this last year when it came to COVID is part of, James T. Kirk, the, Starship Enterprise. They boldly went where no one went before. And that's exactly what we did a little bit more than a year ago today. So next slide, please. So one of the steps that we took getting into this great unknown that we were going to was what we were going to do with our staff members that didn't have work to do driving, transporting students because school just shut down. So when it came, then I'm just going to give you my perception about what I felt when that happened. We didn't know if that was going to be a temporary thing, a short-term thing, a long-term thing, or what was going to happen after that. So again, we're boldly going where no one has gone before. So we did, with your help and your assistance for that, make sure that we were able to continue to employ our drivers and our bus monitors which really helped our staffing and helped others, because I know other districts had just laid off their employees that they didn't need, and even got into a worse situation than I guess I would say we're probably in now when it comes to staffing, because a lot of those people went to other districts and other places. So that really helped us out in the long run. So what did we do? What did the drivers and bus monitors do? They were put out to other places in the districts, to all of our schools. There was about 143 people that we had scheduled and organized to go out and do grounds work, building painting, painting playground equipment, working with custodial staff to keep not only sanitizing, but just cleaning the buildings. Food service, there was, I don't know, I think 25 or 30 of our employees that went and helped out in the food service program. And we actually had some of our people go and work in the classroom with the, what was that called when we did that? The
Morals.
morals that we had with the on-site remote learning students, which seems kind of a strange thing to say, but that's where we were at. We had some people transporting those students in, but we also had people from our department helping with those kids online, which was fantastic. Downside of that is we lost about 2 or 3 of them to the schools because they did such a great job. They applied for the paraeducator jobs, and now we're looking to replace them. So good, bad, it's good for, overall, I'm assuming. So next slide, please. So this chart here, what this shows, every year we do on our 100th day, we give information to the Department of Education that calculate out our average daily miles and our average daily students that ride the bus each day for the first 100 days. And then we estimate for the last 80. This chart shows this year. Now, one thing I want to point out though, is this chart represents the numbers and the cycle there that Yuma Elementary District was doing. We have to remember with our consortium, we're doing all of these same things with the high school district as well. So what I'm sharing here, you double that with the high school, and the high school had a few minor differences in what we were doing, but very much kind of the same pattern. So for Yuma Elementary District, you can see there on the very left-hand side of the chart, it's got August and it says morals. So we were doing what we call the morals route. We were bringing kids in for the on-site remote learning and doing some special needs transporting. So that went into later September when we got into hybrid, and you can see where the hybrid kind of went up with the miles and students. And then as we worked with the hybrid, we increased the number of students and miles we drove. Then when we had to go back to morals again and go off a hybrid, you can see it drop right back down. Now at the end, where it's at the bottom says 5 days a week in March, when we went to 5 day a week, you can see where the numbers jumped up, but the very last column that you have there with the red and the green columns, those are the amount of average daily miles and average daily students that are reported on our 100-day report in the 1920 school year. So you can see we didn't quite get up to half the number of students that we were transporting to school. The other thing I think is interesting with this chart, if you look at the relationship between the number of students, which is the red bar, and the number of miles, which is the green bar, you can kind of get an idea how many students were on each bus. Because if we went more miles with less students, that means we probably had less students on the bus. So as the school year went on and we got back into 5 days, we started having to put more students on the buses than we did back when we were doing hybrid. So that's kind of the gist of what took place there for our busing. Now, each time that we changed, I like to kind of give this scenario up. We had at least 5 different starts of school during the year. Because each time that we changed from hybrid to morals and back to morals and not sure which students were going and which weren't, our routing staff had to reroute all of our bus routes according to what we were doing at the time. So from what we intended to start out with the year to moving to morals, we had a new start of school. All the communication was the same, all the things were the same, everything was the same as if we started a new school year. So that was one of the other, I guess I would say, burdens that we had to kind of overcome in our department as we went into this bold, great, unknown situation that we're in, or we're in. So next slide, please. So during this time, we have kind of a normal, I guess, attrition, if I call it, with turnover of employees. It happens in transportation departments. It's a normal kind of thing. It's ever since I've been in this industry, which is over 32 years now, there has always been talk about driver shortages because driving is a specialized thing that people do. And sometimes people that come and apply to be bus drivers don't know that they want to be bus drivers because they've never done it before. There's no school to go to. You don't go to bus driving school, college, and come out and say, I want to be a bus driver when I graduate college. So you don't know what fit you're going to have for that until you do it. So there's a lot of turnover that comes up in school district transportation departments, some of it just because of that. Now, this year, we really didn't see a lot of an increase in that turnover based on the fact that we had the COVID pandemic. The bigger problem that we had is we couldn't get people trained and we couldn't get any applications for it because people were off work, afraid to come back to work. And the other agencies that we work with, like the Department of Licensing and DPS, the Department of Public Safety, to get people trained and authorized to drive school children to and from school, they were closed. They were working from home. We couldn't get appointments. We couldn't get them tested. We couldn't get any of that going on. So lack of applications and the fact that if people were applying, we couldn't get them authorized to drive anyway. And that took months to kind of get past with. Fortunately, at this time, we have overcome that to a degree. And in the last month or so, and I think that there's a lot to do with that. And one of it, I do believe, is the fact that our governor is promoting that people should be getting back to work. So we have had an increase of applications in the last couple of months. We've got, I think we've got 3 people since, I'm gonna say 2 months ago, trained with numbers to put back into our driving people. We have 3 people that are in training that are ready to get their numbers or to graduate. Another 4 people that are getting their first credentials together in order to start training. Another 4 people that we've interviewed ready to get started, and about another 5 applicants in our queue that we can start looking at and selecting from. So the applications and getting people back on board bus driving is starting to get back to more of a normal thing for us.
That's good.
Now, the slide that you have up there, that bus, that thing you've probably seen out in front of the fairgrounds for the better part of the year and probably last year and the year before when we've had it out there. So that particular bus and sign and where that's at has been one of the best places we had to get people's attention to contact us about becoming a bus driver. And you've also probably seen our banners and stuff all around town, all the signs and everything that we have. So we've really been working hard about getting that. We also have like a Facebook presence where we just communicate with people that want to talk about, student transportation and the like. So, we've been kind of beating the bushes out there trying to make sure that we're getting, good applicants in and get our driving force back up to a reasonable level. So next slide, please. So we decided we wanted to get a little bit of recognition out in our community. So we got this plaque and we presented that to the person that operates the fairgrounds, just as an appreciation for us parking the bus out there and helping us with these advertising efforts. So they really appreciated that. So speaking of that, we kind of were thinking, what can we do internally when it comes to turnover? What can we do to help with retention? So there are different aspects that are kind of a hindrance to us to do, but we were really looking closely at just our overall morale and culture and our recognition and celebrations that, employees and that need. I would say especially our bus drivers, because our bus drivers are out working on their own most of the time. There's 125 bus drivers and 50 some odd bus monitors that come in, get their keys, go to their bus, do their work, come in, turn in their keys and go home. There's not a lot of time that you're actually in the workplace other than in your bus working. So that kind of hinders a little bit about us being able to interact really easily. So we've kind of put a few things together to try to help mediate that. Next slide, please. So this right here is a card. Card's about yay long, and we've been using this for the last couple of years. This is for employees to recognize other employees that have done good work either for themselves or they see doing good work for others. So they can pick this card up, write whatever they want to on it with, acknowledging what another employee did, stick it up on our board. And that tends to accumulate. Now, we've done that for quite a while. Now, we did think that what else can we do? So just before you get, too excited about what I'm gonna show you on the next slide, I wanna make sure that you know, I cleared this with the person that put it together. There's no copyright infringements or anything like that for it, so I just wanna make sure that you don't think that when I go to the next slide. High five. We have incorporated our own transportation high five award process. Yes. So you see the board, all those white slips up there are people, those are all of our nominations. They go up, people can read them, we take them down, we select from there, and we give awards out based on how many of those that we get. So on one time, we had like 40 of these slips up on the board. And so we decided that for every 10 nominations we had, we would give out a recognition award for each 10 that we get. So when we had 40, we gave out 4. So next slide. So here's one of the action shots of our high five ceremony. We've been giving the high five every other week, so twice a month. And we had 2 recipients of it there, and that's the first one there that is getting their high five. And the other one behind him is one of the mechanics that we had that was selected for high five for that particular period. Next, please. And here they are, the happy recipients. They get certificates, a little gift bag with that, and in their hands, like the mechanic there on your left, that's a little trophy that's got a little high five hand on it, and they get to take that home. It's been very well received. We get a lot of participants coming in to watch the ceremony, and it doesn't hurt either to have like treats there, like the cupcakes that if you're there with the ceremony, you get to get some of those cupcakes. Another thing we were doing as far as culture and stuff goes, next slide. This is what we put together for Mother's Day. Just a little something that, they can come in, get their snacks, we recognize them Mother's Day. A few of them got pictures when they were getting in and stuff like that, just to kind of elevate the belonging that you have instead of the coming and going like you do and doing your work and then feeling like, nobody kind of recognizes that you're even there. So next slide. Nice. So here it is, the grand finale, the end of year barbecue potluck. Nice. You can see that over on the right-hand side is Chef Jose Aguayo. He's our shop foreman, and he's manning the grill. And we provided all the meat and everything, and people brought in other things for this end-of-year potluck in our Ramada del Norte, as we call it. Now, we use that canopy also for things like fundraising and stuff like that, nacho days and things like that, so we can raise the money in order to do these kind of things. So, next slide. Over 71% of our staff participated in this end-of-year barbecue potluck celebration that we had. You can see that a lot of them don't have their masks on, but don't worry, it was afternoon on the last day of school, so we were able to take our masks off and we were fully vaccinated, so we're okay in that picture. So that was very well received. People really liked having that happen, and it was just a good time. Next slide. Then we were ready to gear up, head right back out and do summer school the very next day. So, just like with the classroom and in the schools, we never rest. So next slide. We just all look forward to a good next school year with all of our kids back in school. Awesome. So thank you very much. Any questions?
I think it's incredible. Thank you. I know that, and I had never even thought about it until you brought it up, Ron, that no, you're not going to feel like you belong if you're never with the people that are doing the same job you're doing. Mm-hmm. There's not that camaraderie. There's not that sharing of ideas, so I think that is awesome. I really do.
Imagine that being a lot like the nighttime custodian.
Right.
He comes in by himself, cleans, go home, and nobody a lot of times even realizes they're there unless they come in and find something that hasn't been done. That's I kind of look at it a little bit like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, your numbers are incredible, and I really do kudos to your department for coming up with these ideas. Great.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yes, great idea. Thank you.
High five, Ron.
Thank you. There we go.
Okay, we will now go on to item 3.5, the ESSER 3 overview. Elizabeth and Mr. Ron Munson.
Hello, Madam President and governing board members. This evening, we will be giving the board an overview of the ESSER 3 grant. Let me share my slide. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right, tonight's presentation will cover the following. We will go over our allocation, some new requirements that ESSER 3 has. We'll go over eligible expenses, and we'll touch on district-wide focus areas, and then I will provide a timeline to the governing board. So as previously stated, ADE received funding through the American Rescue Plan Act to provide districts with funds to support local recovery needs and efforts in response to COVID-19. District 1 has been awarded $18.5 million, and the district has until September of 2024 to spend these funds. Right now, our application target date is August 23rd, and I'll talk more about that in our timeline at the end. ESSER 3 includes a new required set aside for all districts. 20% of the allocation must be used to address the learning loss, which we'll touch on the next slide. 20% of our total allocation is $3.7 million. Another thing we have to do is we must engage our stakeholders. If you recall, a couple weeks ago, we put out a community survey that I believe closed yesterday. So once we receive that feedback, we will evaluate it, and then we'll bring it back to the governing board. And then the district must also have a return to in-person learning plan, which is our mitigation plan, but that must be up to date within 6 months of our award date. As I stated on the previous slide, the 20% of total ESSER 3 award must be reserved to address the learning loss through the implementation of evidence-based interventions. So this is specifically for the most vulnerable student populations, like our migrant students, low income, our SPED students, EL. Rob, is there anything you want to add on this slide?
No, other than the fact that it's kind of a little bit premature to determine who those groups are at this point. So we obviously want to use some data to determine the needs of those specific groups. And one of the ways we'll do that is through our first Galileo that we give.
The other 80% may be spent on any of the following activities: training and professional development for staff, technology, providing mental health services, summer learning, student attendance, improving engagement, some school facility repairs, and of course to continue to employ staff if we have a decrease in enrollment. So we can utilize those funds for that. Some of our district-wide focus area: academic acceleration. We want to focus on support services. We want to provide additional staff for the sites for interventions, instructional technology, facility improvements, and any additional programs like before and after school. And then the ESSER 3 timeline. Again, in June, we sent out the stakeholder survey. We will evaluate those results and present those to the governing board either at a special meeting in June to hopefully propose the budget or through a Friday report. And then July, based on the survey results and our district priorities, we will develop an expenditure plan, and then we will present that to the governing board in August at our regular meeting. Again, we would like to submit that grant application no later than the 23rd of August. And Mr. Monson, would you like to add anything to your process?
Just so that the board knows that we meet with the principals. There is an allocation set aside per pupil for sites. So the way it works in our office is we schedule with the principals to determine how to budget their allocation. which is a little bit more than their actual Title I allocation. So I meet with them. We go over their strategies, some of the ideas that they have, their creative ideas, and we try to make it site specific to what their needs are at their sites. So once we determine that, once we create the budget, once the budget gets approved, then the sites are allowed to spend off of their budgets. So that's typically how our process works. It's the same with Title I as well.
Does the board have any questions?
I do. I'm wondering, are all students eligible for the funding, exceptional students? Is there a concern about supplanting or, so students with special needs or students with language deficits?
So the ESSER dollars, Faith, do not have supplant rules. There are no supplanting rules. They have been
Right.
removed. Yeah.
When
Yep.
does that ever happen?
All students can benefit.
Whoa.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions, Elizabeth. The 20%, how is that percentage determined? Like 20% as opposed to 40% of the
This
total funds?
This was part of the American Rescue Plan Act. That's how it was written in there. They want
Okay.
districts to allocate 20% to the most vulnerable students.
So it's not a figure that we came up with as a district that, okay, that's good. Okay.
a
And my other
federal
question, thank you. My other question was the dollars, when you were talking about the programs that they're going to be spent for, are those dollars in addition to what is being spent for after school and before school programs? They're not
So
going to
this-
be added to what's already being budgeted for?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, so some schools will still have like their 21st century. They can utilize these for, maybe Saturday school or before school, something different. Yep.
okay, thank you.
Madam President, I have one other thing I'd like to point out. If you notice on the third slide, the timeline runs through September 30th, 2024. So we have, 3 years. By the time it's approved, we'll have 3 years to use these funds. And like with any funding that we utilize, a large percentage of it is going to go to people, salaries and benefits for people to do these activities. But you may hear within the context of school funding conversations, you may hear people say that the schools have been given all this money and they haven't even used very much of it yet. And just like maybe with one of your own children, if you gave them a certain amount of money, you might tell them not to go spend it all immediately. So we're scheduling out so that we can make the best use over time. We know that the challenges that we need to address and the learning that we need to accelerate, it's not going to happen in 1 year. So it's a good thing that we are able to utilize these funds over the course of a few years. But if you may hear that criticism, and the fact is that really it's the most conservative and reasonable way to use this resources is to spread it out over the 3 years and maximize that time frame as well.
That makes sense. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Elizabeth and Mr. Munson, for that excellent overview of the ESSER funds. We will now go on to item 4, which is called to the public. The governing board welcomes statements from residents and appreciates constructive suggestions and comments that help meet the educational needs of the district. A form to submit these comments and suggestions can be found on our website, www.yuma.org. The completed form should be submitted by 4 p.m. the day of the meeting, which is traditionally the second Monday of the month. Now, I have 3 letters that we have received, so I will go ahead and read them. And just to reiterate, the board cannot make any comments, but I will go ahead and read each of these letters. The The first one is from Mr. Gerald Hinkle Jr., and it was submitted May 12th. Thank you for the opportunity to address the governing board. I have many concerns that I wish to address with the governing board and intend to do so in person when allowed. My initial concern is the decision to continue virtual meetings of the governing board even when health concerns related to the pandemic have dramatically subsided. As you know, the vaccine is readily available, and the number of infections in our community have dropped significantly. This time of year, our community is home to over 100,000 people, and the local hospital has reported a total of 3 COVID-infected patients being treated May 11th, 2021, with none of them in the ICU. 3, in recognition of the change in our public health situation, the city, the mayor, has removed the mask mandate, as has the county. There is simply no evidence to support the reasoning behind continuing to meet virtually other than to restrict the public's ability to participate. You should know that whether or not that is your intent, in current environment, that is the perception. For those of you who believe a member of our community can continue to have their voices heard and participate in the process through the use of a computer, have you tried to obtain the latest meeting agenda or meeting minutes from the school district lately? Give it a try. You already know when the meetings are held and have access to the current agenda, but just try to find that information on the district website. By the way, who is responsible for the statements made on the school district's website? I am thinking the governing board is. I read through the mission statement made on the district's homepage, learning about how horribly racist our country is, but the word education seems to be missing. Couldn't find it anywhere. I drove by a local school recently and watched kids playing on the playground wearing masks outside in the heat. Things need to change, and it starts with allowing the public to access the governing board in person. Our second letter was from Leonard Manis, and it was submitted on May 26, 2021. And it was to address the lack of competence in the superintendent and principal at Gila Vista. I am addressing the lack of competence and effort put forward by both the principal and school board superintendent. Our third letter was submitted around noon today, June 14, 2021. And the subject of the presentation is Mask in School and Parents on Campus. As we approach the upcoming school year, 2 questions are constantly on my mind. And before I continue further, this letter was written by Beverly McMenemy. I will start again. As we approach the upcoming school year, 2 questions are constantly on my mind. Will masks continue to be required in school, and will parents still not be allowed to enter campus? I am here today to represent my children and every parent who feel they might not have a voice. Every day I hear from both of my boys, "Mommy, when will you be allowed to walk me to class? When will we stop wearing a mask? Can you please tell them that I don't want to wear a mask anymore and that I want you to walk me to my classroom?" I know what you're going to say, but Mrs. McMenemy, we are following CDC guidelines. We are doing our best to keep our students safe and healthy. The CDC states on their website, lower susceptibility and incident among younger children compared to teenagers suggests that younger students, for example, elementary school students, are likely to have less risk of in-school transmission due to in-person learning than older students. Everyone knows that young children are not affected by this virus, so why are we still making our children wear a mask and not allowing parents to enter a campus? If social and emotional health was such a big concern, students would not be forced to wear a mask and be locked into a school like prisoners where their parents are not allowed to enter. If we are really worried about their health, why do we continue to do this? This isn't March 2020 anymore. It is now June 2021, and we've learned so much. If you truly mean what you say, and you're really worried about their health and safety, then why are our children being fed such horrible meal? Have you seen what our children are being served for breakfast and lunch? These processed foods are way more dangerous than a virus that, per the CDC website, does not affect young children. We currently have 3 vaccines available for every adult in the state of Arizona who wants a vaccine. We know that young children are not affected by this virus. So why do we continue to treat them like they are the most vulnerable? Why do you continue to not allow parents who choose to send their children to school to make their own choices regarding their children and their health? For a whole entire year, parents were not allowed to enter campus. My son started kindergarten in the year 2020, and I never got to see his classroom in person. I never had the opportunity to walk him into school on the first day when he was scared. I will never get that back, and neither will the other parents. I am so grateful for his teacher who kept us updated as best as she could and shared photos of the children. Multiple times I witnessed an essential worker being allowed to enter campus. You're telling me that a delivery person is more essential than a parent who lives in the same household as the child. I look at you board members and ask you to end the nonsense. Lift your mask mandate once and for all, and allow parents to enter campus. Allow parents to make their own decisions regarding the health of their children. We, the people, voted for you to represent us and the children. We did not vote for CDC members to make those decisions for us. Lastly, I would like to ask the district to please do better on their communication. Phone calls are not being returned. There's a lot of hearsay and not a lot of clear information being given. Thank you for your time, Beverly McMenemy. So that concludes reading those 3 letters from Call to the Public. We will now go on to the consent agenda. Approval of these items are of a routine nature and those that normally do not require deliberations on the part of the governing board. A board member may pull items which will be discussed and voted on separately. At this time, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Karen, seconded by Faith.
Yes.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed unanimously. We will now go on to item 6, the action items. 6.1 is consideration to approve director. 6.1 is a consideration to approve assistant principal hiring at Ron Ronson. Mr. Sheldon.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, with the appointment of Jackie Aceto as principal, there was a vacancy in the at the assistant principal level. And as you can see, we use the same rigorous selection process that we use for a principal, which includes an introductory video, an electronic application, cover letters, letters of recommendation, as well as a 30-minute professional development lesson that each candidate puts on for groups of people. And you also can see that the final interview committee was a very diverse committee that represented both district and building personnel. And after that rigorous process and careful deliberation and discussion of each candidate's qualities and fit for the position, the interview committee recommends Audrey Corners to be the new assistant principal at Ron Watson Middle School.
Thank you, Mr. Sheldon. Do I hear a motion to approve the administrative recommendation that Audrey Corners be approved as assistant principal for the 21-22 school year?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Faith and seconded by Karen. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed unanimously.
I believe Mrs. Corners has been on the line the entire time. So I think she'd probably like to accept this honor. Audrey?
Good afternoon, Madam President and governing board members. I am very pleased and thrilled to start the position, and I thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations, Audrey.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now go on to item 6.2, which is consideration to approve Director of Operations, Mr. Sheldon.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board. The process for selecting a Director of Operations started with an announcement that the district was seeking an outstanding leader for the vacant position. First, the applicants completed an electronic application, submitted cover letters, resume, letters of recommendation, and references as well through our electronic reference surveys. The applicants were asked to participate in the interview process, which included the final interview committee asking a set of formalized questions, reviewing a writing prompt, and listening to a presentation. So it was again a rigorous process, and you can see that the committee was representative of both operations directors as well as district and building personnel. After careful deliberation and discussion of each candidate's qualities of the fit for the position, the interview committee has recommended James Lagunas as Director of Operations effective June 21st, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Sheldon. I need a motion to approve James Lagunas as the Director of Operations effective June 21st, 2021?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Teresa and seconded by Adele. Is there any questions? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
I believe James is joining us virtually as well. I think that's him in the upper right-hand corner. Mr. Lagunas?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sheldon. Good evening, Madam President and governing board members. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to work for School District 1. I look forward to working with my leadership team and my fellow District 1 employees. Very excited to start.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Two happy appointments there.
Yeah.
Okay, we will now go on to items 6.3, which is consideration to approve the 21-2022 performance plan. Mr. Shepherd?
Madam Chairman, members of the school board, each year I've packed a lot of information in one page. So I'm going to break this down, okay? As I read, I'll stop and I'll ask for any clarification on that particular part of our performance plan, because things have changed as far as the law has gone. So let's begin. Each year, a committee of teachers brings to the governing board a proposal for the Proposition 301 performance plan as required by ARS 15-977. The performance plan must be approved by the governing board by December 31st of each year. Proposition 301 sunsets this year, so we will be transitioning away from using 301 as the identifier. The state legislature, no longer the voters, now controls the Classroom Site Fund and the performance plan within this fund. So let me stop there. So if you remember, Proposition 301 was voted in 20 years ago, and it was voter protected. And the last day of Proposition 301 is June 30th of this year. So so that will sunset. I'm pleased that the legislator took this up, and so that this can continue, because it certainly benefits all of our teachers in our district. And if you contact your legislators, just encourage them to keep the current legislation intact, and that's what we would want them to do. Any parts about this part of the law, any clarification needed?
I don't think so.
Okay, so if you are familiar with the original Classroom Site Fund, there were 3 buckets that contained different components of the fund. Those buckets no longer exist, as they were all consolidated into one bucket with just a couple of changes. The one component that does affect our teachers is that school data will no longer be used in the teacher evaluation. The evaluation remains, but not the school academic achievement data that was a factor in determining a teacher's level of performance. We'll look at, I'll stop there, we'll look at the plan in just a little bit, and it'll make a little bit more sense then. And all the indicators, so we had those 3 buckets, and there were indicators at each bucket that you could use, how you could use that money. Well, it's just one bucket with a very long list now, and it all stays intact. Okay, so that's what we're looking at there. Any clarification about that part? During the month of May, the Classroom Site Fund Performance Plan Committee met to develop a plan for the 2021-2022 school year. The objective for the committee was to evaluate last year's plan, refine any areas in need, and expand any possibilities. We also discussed the sunsetting of Proposition 301. So we have to get away from using, hey, this is Prop 301, because it really isn't anymore. So we're looking at either calling it Classroom Site Fund, but I think people will know it as the performance plan. The committee that you'll see is listed at the bottom of the report, and you can see that we had representation from all sites in our district. One recommendation was made by the Associate Superintendent to the committee. For accounting purposes, we slightly changed the percentages so that the dollar amounts landed on an even dollar. This is indicated in yellow highlighting on the attached plan. It just makes our accounting a heck of a lot easier from our office. And we'll look at that plan in just a minute. The committee agreed to keep the 7 elements available from last year's plan. Measure of academic progress in ELA and math based on Galileo. Number 2, student attendance. Number 3, a parent survey. Number 4, a student survey. Number 5, the pre-service PD day. And number 6, continued PD for personalized learning. And 7, site and district integration plan. So these are the same elements that we have used for years and have refined them as well. And we'll look at that plan in just a minute if you have any questions about that. On May 14th, 2021, 100% of the participants voted to accept the plan, with 99% of the participants voting, which was 459 people out of 464 participants.
When does that ever happen?
Ever.
Yes. We've been getting close in the past year. We have never hit that, and we have never hit 100% of the people accepted the plan.
Our staff is awesome.
It is awesome. I believe this indicates a strong performance plan is in place. The proposed Classroom Site Fund Performance Plan is attached. Your approval allows planning, implementation, and pay to occur during the summer. So that's why we bring it to you in June, because we would like to do some things with Proposition 301 over the summer. So there is some great news in these next two lines, and I am just thrilled. I was thrilled when I got to tell the committee this. I made the principals knew ahead of time, and I made them they weren't allowed to tell, because I wanted the committee to have the joy to go back to the participants and tell them we are getting a $1,700 increase in Prop 301, actually in the performance plan, in the classroom site fund. And that will be on a permanent basis too. So that one stays. So the 9,200 that you see there, that is our annual performance plan, classroom site fund payout. That will be the annual. So there's even more great news for our teachers. The Arizona economy performed really well, which will give teachers a one-time payment of $3,000 to be paid out in 2 payments, December and May, to all participants during the 2021-2022 school year. More money in teachers' hands. So I'm going to say this because I emphasized it with the committee as well. This is $3,000 and it is one time. And so let me repeat that again. It is one-time money. So it'll be, so you won't see this again in a year. This particular amount. So that's just wonderful. We're tickled that we can just give that to our teachers. So let's take a look now at the plan. When you look at the plan, there are three different colors that show up on the plan. One is the yellow, and the yellow indicates this is where we did some changing that you want to be aware of. The blue section is about the teacher evaluation, and if you notice on the left-hand side, you'll see the blue box up above, and you'll see that the blue boxes right below it continue. That's all about the teacher evaluation system. The green box at the top begins all the performance plan elements, and then down below those blue boxes is where the performance plan begins again. So let's just talk real quickly about the teacher evaluation. This is just based on their every year the evaluation, their performance says that there would be a payout of $1,000. You could see the number that we went down to. It just declined just a little bit to $1,000, and it would be paid out according to their categories. So when you look at their categories, we have 3 different categories in our district. If you are a category 1, these are your first 3 years in Yuma District 1. And if you are at any of these levels, developing, effective, and highly effective, you would be paid out at 100%. And we believe, and some people have questioned that, well, we believe that, hey, in the first 3 years of teaching, you might be at the developing level. Developing is not necessarily a bad thing, especially in your first 3 years, but because we have an incredible coaching staff that will help you through all that, and that would be fine. In category 2, these are your next 4th through the 9th year in the district experience. And if you come in as rated as effective or highly effective, you would be paid out at 100%. Or if you hit that developing level, then you'd be paid out at 85%. In category 3, this is for all teachers who have been here 10 plus years in the district, and you'd be paid out 100% for reaching the effective and highly effective marks, or 60% if you hit developing for that. Let me stop there and answer any questions about our teacher evaluation system and the performance plan.
I have a question. When you, the district experience, so if we have somebody transfer in with 4 years experience, would they fall under category 2 or category 1?
They fall under category 1.
So it's actual just
It's actual in our district, because sometimes you have to learn what the district initiatives are, and most of our teachers can pick up on that, but sometimes it's a big shift to come into a district like ours.
Dwayne, I just have a quick question on the evaluation itself. When is that actually done?
So if you are a new teacher, if you're a category 1 teacher, you actually get 2 evaluations in our district. Usually one's done in the fall and one's done shortly after Christmas time for those teachers. All teachers 4 years and above only need to receive 1 evaluation throughout the year. And that can, I know some of those are done before Christmas and some of those are done after Christmas time. So, but they only need to be evaluated once formally. Okay?
So if let me get this, the payout is December and May. So if they're evaluated in the fall.
No, that was for the one-time monies.
One-time money, got it, okay,
One-time money is paid out in December and May.
thank you.
Everything else, there are, in the big picture of 301, there are two different types of payouts. One is actually in August, after you attend the PD day, which is on the elements, is in the green section down below. So after teachers attend that, this year it's like July 27th-ish, someplace in there. After they attend that, then a payroll will pay them out for attending that one day. That's been extremely helpful. Otherwise, then the next payout is not until June. It comes around now. People will see their 301 payout.
Okay, and based on up at the top where Prop 301 is crossed out, so it's no longer going to be called that?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, we're gonna have to get used to not calling it Prop
Okay.
301. So, so let's move on to the green box now. And if you noticed, real quickly, back in the blue box, we went from 33% to 31%. And I moved that $56 over to the green box because that would make all of our, for accounting purposes, it just makes everything nice and clean for us in our department. There, you could see the 7 elements there that we use in our district. And so now let's jump down below and look at those elements a little bit closely. The first one is the measure of academic progress. We use Galileo for this. And this is a list of that you have, that you only need to achieve one of these for the payout. So you can achieve the Galileo ELA or the math or the science pre and post test measurements. Okay, so if you met the expected growth of, and those were ORs of any of those subjects, you would be paid out the $220. You see the $220 in yellow, that's what you'd be paid out. Or, there's still some more, or the subgroup increase. Why did we talk about subgroups? Because AZM 2 talks about subgroup increase. So we might as well be aligned as closely as we could to the state performance plan as well. Or a reduction in the minimally proficient categories on Galileo, math, ELA, or science. So minimally proficient is the lowest category that students would fall into. And if you could reduce that percentage, well, in this case, it'd be reducing it on Galileo, then you would receive that payout. And that's how the measure of academic progress works there.
So Galileo is given how many times a year?
It's given 3 times a year with the option of a February one. So we give it right at the beginning.
So it would be a cumulative evaluation on the Galileo test?
Is it
3, or is it just?
It's not, it's a comparison. So in the way the Galileo works, it actually, in a way it's cumulative. It's more, the target does move because at the beginning of the year, we expect let's just take 3rd grade, we expect them to be here. But at Christmas time when we take it, we expect them to be here. And in May, we expect them to be even higher. So the target does move along the way. And so schools aim for that. And they're aiming for the expected growth. And there's a determined number that Galileo helps us out with. And it tells us we expect 3rd grade in math to grow this much. We expect 3rd grade reading to grow this much. And they change between third grade math and 3rd grade reading might not have the same expectation, and 3rd grade science might not have the same expectation. So each one of those have a different expectations. Everybody knows the system very well, so they're used to doing this quite well. And that's how that one works. That's one the more complicated of the issues.
So if they're evaluated twice a year, one in the fall and one at Christmas.
And one at the end.
Oh, at the end,
Yes, there are 3.
3, okay. I misunderstood. Okay, gotcha. 'Cause I was trying to figure out how to give Galileo 3 times a year,
Oh.
and they're only evaluated twice. I
Oh,
thought,
yeah, so, yeah, we look at it, yeah, so we look at the pre and the post, that's our very first one, so we look at August, and then we compare it to May.
okay.
And that's
thank you.
where we look for the expected growth.
That
growth.
makes more sense, the way you said it, than the way I thought it.
I'm glad to help you.
Thank you.
The second element is student attendance rate. We look at the 100th day average daily school attendance or a decrease in chronic absenteeism. And we put in chronic absenteeism because the state was looking at chronic absenteeism, so we wanted to match that as well. The rating of school quality by a majority of parents, that's the survey. We put out the parent survey. We used it in conjunction with the mitigation plan survey, okay? And so we got the information out from that this year.
Okay, question on that.
Sure.
Is that based on the parents that are in that classroom, or is that total school?
Total school,
Okay,
by school, but not by class.
okay.
So we have not gone down to the classroom level at all in our years of doing this. Our principals, our teachers have said, this is a collective effort.
Mhm.
It is a school-wide effort that we do this.
Thank
And
you.
so they have liked that very much. And then we do a student survey each year, and we did that again with our plan, with our mitigation plan. We were asking students about them at school, and also we picked up a few more questions about their experience this year. And that was really informative. That was really quite telling for us. And then we have one of our big ones, which is the professional development. We can't call it 301 anymore. We'll have to call it something else. Our professional development day. It's one of our pre-service days. Right before teachers come on contract, we have one day right before it. It's Tuesday, July, I think it's around the 27th. And for attending that day, which has become extremely important in our district, these 2 pre-service days, we use the Tuesday and then their first day of contract on Wednesday. This year we'll be out at Castle Dome, and then we will have everybody participating in that, and then they will earn $660 for being there that day. And that's been really important because we get a lot of things done on that day with our teachers as far as in school initiatives, district initiatives, things that are happening in the classroom. Sometimes we have vendors coming in who are our curriculum people. They come in and they help us get going for implementation for either new teachers or experienced teachers. So a lot of different things happen on that day that are very important. The next one is the professional development for personalized learning. And we expect that each year that our teachers would have 4 hours of time to work on their personalized learning, and that comes in at $330 for the year. And then student achievement through site and district integration, integrated action plans. Those are our Title I plans that we write. They're called the IAPs. You might have heard that those 3 initials before, and then that is earned for $660 for the year.
Dwayne, how are those last 3 evidenced? So how do I prove it to you?
Attendance. So sign in for the professional development days, and then sign off on that you were able to get your 4 hours in, and the principals make the last decision if teachers were participants in their Title I plan at their school site.
And then who does HR, who's in charge of tracking and aggregating all of the information? Mr. Shepherd. You know what? Good on you. That's tough work.
He has a pretty good helper too.
Yes.
I have an excellent helper.
And a bunch of
Actually, I have a whole
spreadsheets.
team of people. This just doesn't happen with 2 people. This happens with a
Right.
lot
Yes.
of people who put this together. We work hard on this one.
What about the February PD day, Dwayne? Is that,
That's contractual.
okay, got it.
So that's in their contract.
Thank you.
Well, your committee did a great job.
Yes, as always.
Aren't they good?
Yep.
Yeah, they are really, really good. So we didn't change very much. If you notice, I asked them not to really look at all the elements this year because we had enough change with COVID and everything. This wasn't the year to really make major changes. So we're going to hold off and we're going to discuss it and bring to you next year if we want to do any major changes with that.
Madam
So-
President, I move that we accept and approve the proposal for performance plan as presented by Mr. Shepherd.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Faith and seconded by Karen to accept the classroom site fund performance plan that Mr. Shepherd presented for the 2021-2022 school year. Is there any additional discussion?
I just want to say again, good job, committee. That's hard work.
It is.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Again, thank you, Mr. Shepherd, you and your team. Great job. We will now go on to item 6.4, which is the superintendent's contract performance pay for 2020-2021 school year. Item 6.4 gives the governing board an opportunity to discuss and approve the superintendent performance pay for the 2020-2021 school year. As outlined by the superintendent's contract, the superintendent performance pay is determined based on evidence of progress regarding district goals developed by the governing board annually. If approved by the governing board, the amount of the performance pay, 5% of the base salary, will be paid out by June 30th of this school year. I just want to elaborate a little bit more in the sense that this is not a bonus. This is part of his base pay. And Arizona state law requires us to hold back a percentage. And the state mandates that this can be anywhere from 2% to 20%. And District 1 opted to withhold 5%. We've done this for like the past 6-8 years. So at this time, also before we go any further, earlier in the year the board conducted an evaluation on the superintendent as well. So do I hear a motion to approve the amount of performance pay, which is 5%, which will be paid out by June 30th of this school year for the superintendents?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Teresa, seconded by Karen. Is there any additional discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Congratulations, Jamie.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Appreciate the support of the board. And it is a privilege to serve our district and especially this board. We're very blessed to have such a great board.
Okay, we will now go on to item 7.1, which is future agenda topics. This item provides the opportunity for governing board members to request that the administration provide a report on specific items and/or in the areas of board interest. Does anyone have anything?
It's not really an agenda item, just a question for Elizabeth with the state budget not being approved, not even really being discussed right now. Where are we at with our budget process?
I'm utilizing the draft spreadsheets that they have provided to us, but they are not, the dollar amounts are not accurate.
Okay.
But I'm utilizing it for my own purposes so that I already have my numbers in there, my salaries, benefits, contracted services. So when they do release those budget forms, I just transfer that data over to the updated forms.
And I know that typically the board has to hold a special meeting before June 30th because the budget is due, what, July 1st?
So we have to have it adopted by July 15th. So
Okay.
we can, and they have to be 10 days apart. So we have to propose it and give the community 10 days to review it. And then after that, we propose it and then we wait 10 days to adopt it.
So that's 20 days.
20 days
Yeah.
out.
Days total.
So we'll have to have a special meeting sometime in July. Oh, two. Okay.
Well, end of June, really. 20 days out. It's due by the 15th of July.
So the question we have is, what happens if this continues to drag on and we don't have sufficient time for the
That was my next question for
for the
Elizabeth.
legal requirements for opportunity for public comment and the two meetings. But I would assume that we'll get some direction on that. If
I
that
would hope
happens.
so.
I will hold my comments. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
So we will, at this point, I'm sure Elizabeth and Mr. Sheldon will keep us apprised of the
Yes.
status of the budget, because I know we all want to sign and get things going, but nothing has happened as of yet, so we just have to wait and see. Okay, is there anything else for the good of the district? There being none, I will adjourn the meeting.